At Canungra in Queensland, the Wartime Jungle Training Centre has been reopened. In the mountains 50 miles southeast of Brisbane, men have for some time been training in the most modern methods of jungle warfare. They are members of 2nd Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, and the training they're receiving at this establishment will serve them in good stead when they reach Malaya. The training methods used at Canungra have been developed as a result of a close study of the conditions in Malaya and of the tactics being used by the Commonwealth forces in dealing with the communist bandits. The Jungle Warfare Wing of the Training Centre is making certain that our men will be trained up to the minute in these new techniques, and that they'll be more than a match for the opposition that they may encounter in the jungles of Malaya. The science of warfare is ever-changing, and the developmental wing within the training centre maintains a constant study of the trends of jungle warfare. Its observers have returned from on-the-spot observation with many of the answers to the problems involved in meeting the type of aggression that has been experienced within the Malayan Federation. Our men will be well prepared for anything the future may bring. Today is a history-making day in the life of the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment. The Honorary Colonel of the regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Sir Horace Robertson, is received by the parade. The Minister for the Army, the Honourable Jos Francis, is received by the parade. His Excellency, the Governor-General, Field Marshal Sir William Slim, is greeted by Colonel O.R. Jackson, representing the GOC Northern Command. He greets the Minister for the Army. He meets Major General Barham, Adjutant General, Lieutenant General Robertson, and Colonel Austin, Regimental Colonel of the Royal Australian Regiment and Director of Infantry. This is a ceremonial parade on the occasion of the presentation of the Queen's and regimental colours to 2nd Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment. The presentation is to be made by His Excellency as part of this impressive ceremony at Victoria Park, Brisbane. The commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Ochiltree, reports that the parade is ready for inspection. Chaplain General, the Reverend Alan Brooke, will now pronounce the blessing. And this consecration of the colours marks a traditional ceremony that has continued since medieval times. The colours embody the history, spirit and traditions of the unit to which they belong. They are highly valued, carefully guarded and treated with great respect. The custom of carrying colours has its origin in the earliest times, when, during battle, warring factions carried flags bearing family badges or armorial bearings to show the positions of commanders and to serve as rallying points. Since 1751, regiments have been allowed two colours only, the Queen's colour and the regimental colour. Although they are no longer carried into battle, colours remain a symbol of the regiment, for on them are borne the battle honours granted in recognition of gallant deeds performed by its members. Queen's and regimental colours will serve as a constant reminder to all members of the unit of their duty to their sovereign and their country. This is a proud day for 2nd Battalion Royal Australian Regiment. The men of this regiment will not fail their colours, and events of the future may see these colours inscribed with a fine record of achievement. Meanwhile, thousands of citizens have gathered to witness a parade of 2nd Battalion through Brisbane, following the colour ceremony. This will be the final parade of the battalion prior to its departure from Brisbane for service in Malaya. Hey, Ma, the band's coming. Quick! The battalion proudly parades its colours, a significant moment in the history of the regiment, as they're saluted by the Governor-General. Included in the parade is a section of war dogs which have been specially trained. They'll accompany the battalion to Malaya. The parade presents an exciting spectacle as it passes before Brisbane City Hall and through King George Square. Today, every available member of the battalion is parading. The only members absent are those who are members of an advance party which is already in Malaya, preparing for the arrival of the battalion at Penang. This parade before the citizens of Brisbane marks the culmination of months of training and preparation for the work which may lie ahead of the battalion. The men will carry with them the goodwill and best wishes of every thinking Australian. Memories of wartime embarkations flood back as the battalion prepares to embark in the troop ship Georgic at Brisbane. Organisation is smooth, and after their disembarkation from buses, the men will have an opportunity to say farewell to their wives, sweethearts, friends and relatives. One man, a sweet memory of a lovely child. Goodbye, son. Take care of Mum. You'll be the man of the house for a while. A happy day this, tinged with sadness for some, for parting is such sweet sorrow. Say, Dig, that must be an interesting article. Hey, Digger, how interesting can a newspaper get? Farewell's over. The men prepare to embark on launches that will take them to the Georgic. The troops have been on the move in a shuttle bus service between Canungra Camp and the Pinkenba Wharf, Brisbane, since 2:15 this morning. The shuttle service continues on the water as batches of the men are taken to the Georgic in pleasure launches and a 300-ton army ship. The first batches of men have boarded the ship already at 5 a.m. and by 9:30 a.m., all 773 men will have been embarked. They join the 411 men of other units that embarked in the Georgic in Sydney 3 days previously. Some of the relatives of the men have been here on the Pinkenba Wharf since last night. They are determined to give their menfolk a good send-off. It would be fitting at this moment to consider the background of the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment. On the formation of the Australian Regiment in January 1949, the 66th Battalion, formed from units of the 9th Australian Division, 2nd AIF, was redesignated the 2nd Battalion. In March 1949, royal assent was given to the prefix Royal being added to the title of the regiment to give it the now well-known title, the Royal Australian Regiment. With its sister battalions, the 1st and the 3rd, the 2nd Battalion served with distinction and career in the cause of the United Nations. In that campaign, it was a unit of the 28th British Commonwealth Brigade. In Malaya, it will again join the 28th Commonwealth Brigade group, retaining that memorable association. 2nd Battalion Royal Australian Regiment has the distinction of being allied with the Coldstream Guards, and royal assent to this alliance was given by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in August 1952. The liner SS Georgic looms up as another batch of men prepares to embark. Some of these men have seen service overseas previously, but most are young men who have been attracted by the idea of a career with the Army. Fine young Australian types who can be expected to give of their best at all times. Men who can be expected, too, to uphold the good name that Australia carries today in the minds of most of the Asian peoples. They go to Malaya to the British Commonwealth Far East Strategic Reserve. Malayan leaders have expressed their pleasure at the decision by the Australian government to assist them in their difficult task of suppressing terrorism in Malaya. After 12 days sailing, the battalion will disembark on the island of Penang, where they'll establish themselves at Minden Barracks. The troops will continue their training in the thick tropical jungles that lie behind the hills back of their camp. The emergency in Malaya has persisted for 8 years. Malayan police have played an important part in meeting the continued threat of the communist terrorists. At the moment of their embarkation, the men of the battalion have little idea of what may be required of them in Malaya. But regardless of this uncertainty, they have trained and will continue to train themselves to be ready upon the instant that they are needed. Scores of the wives and sweethearts of the men have chartered launches, and this has given them an opportunity to delay that moment when their loved ones will sail out to sea. Time now for departure. A departure tinged with both sorrow and anticipation. Anticipation for the job you've been trained to do. We know that you'll acquit yourselves in the tradition of your regiment, a tradition that, given the opportunity, can be expected to grow. Australians all wish you bon voyage, and after your task has been completed, a safe return to your homeland.